I am Brigadier Dr. Vijay Sagar Dhiman, and I welcome you all on my platform of VR1, which is available on YouTube at Brigadier Guides You. Well, we all are going through a wonderful period of celebrations, 75th year of independence, and as the government of India has started Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav. So Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav, we are having a lot of celebrations, we are having a lot of functions, we are rejoicing, we are taking stock of our achievements, we are eulogizing them. But what about the things which we haven't been able to do? Azadi हमको मिली थी 1947 में, but was that a real आज़ादी? क्या ऐसी भी कोई चीजें हैं जिनसे हमें आज भी आज़ादी चाहिए? अगर हमें आज़ादी चाहिए करप्शन से, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट से, पॉवर्टी से, हमको आज़ादी चाहिए जयचंद से, इतने सारे मीर जाफर हैं जो एंटी इंडिया सोचते हैं. So today in this program we shall be discussing about who are the enemies within the country, who are the enemies outside the country. How is it that we have the freedom of speech in our country so endemic that we can say anything what we like? Like I'm giving an example, like you had those slogans shouting in JNU, Bharat Tere Tukde Honge Azad, and people like other enemies supporting the ultras, the overgrown workers which are on the payrolls of China or payrolls of Pakistan or payrolls of people from the Middle East and all kinds of things. And who are the real enemies outside? That's China, Pakistan, or any other country that we can think about. So for discussing all these things, we have a very eminent personality who is a very, very experienced person, a retired Lieutenant General of Indian Army, who has held very important positions and done a lot of important assignments, and who understands all the fibers of security from within as well out in a very, very great detail. So we have Lieutenant General P.S. Mehta with us. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brigadier Dhiman.
Can I request you to take a stock of the situation and give us an analysis exactly what has happened since 1947 to this day in terms of our internal security and external security, and even our issues of non-alignment and not requiring any kind of armed forces as was prophesied by Jawaharlal Nehru. So what do you think about all that at this juncture and at this point in time?
Well, Brigadier Dhiman, I think that is a very good question you have raised on 75th celebrations of our independence. But let me put certain things in the right perspective. Right from the beginning, let's take a period of, let's say, 1920 onwards till 1947. Those 27 years, Indian politics was at a very nascent stage, and certain leaders who were in Delhi or at the national level were part of freedom fighters trying to get independence from the British, as also learning politics, I would say. They were not seasoned politicians, they had just come into politics and they were learning national and international politics. Maybe they were having good experience of their state level politics, that I don't deny, but the politics at the national level was still immature, not fully developed, and they were climbing the ladder. That is point number one. Point number two, our bureaucrats had learned the art from the British masters of divide and rule. And they took that stance of British divide and rule very seriously and started using the same thing in the Indian polity to include the politicians, the defense forces of India, internal law and order and politics, whereby they did that basically to keep themselves as the elite amongst the politicians and the defense forces. So they did not want to lose that position of the British masters, and they assumed that after 1947 they are now the masters who will lead the country by feeding data and information to the politicians as what they thought was right in all encompassing all possible fields of Indian security or national security. Point number two, that was how the bureaucrats were developing. I told you about politicians. Now let's come to defense forces. I want to make a very important point that there was Lord Mountbatten, who was commander-in-chief of all forces in India under the British Crown, that is to say the Army, Navy and the Air Force. So there was a well-established prize services appointment called commander-in-chief. Unfortunately, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru did not have the foresight, political foresight, as also he had hardly any knowledge about the defense security or the national security, the security of our sovereignty, what is required. His mindset that he was going to be a non-aligned nation, a leader amongst all, and we do not require the defense forces. Nobody is our enemy. We'll remain non-aligned after the breakup of NATO and Warsaw, and we will progress in that manner as the biggest or one of the biggest democracies in the world. But unfortunately, that thought process of his did not take India on the right direction or the right path. Now, what happened? Immediately after 1947, when we got the independence, he abolished the beautiful rank and the appointment of commander-in-chief of all defense forces in India. And imagine, after 73 years, we have gone back to bringing back the same appointment called the CDS, General Bipin Rawat, who's the commander of the defense staff. It's rather unfortunate that we did not learn these lessons over 73 years. Now coming to...
But sir, the point you raised about the appointment of CDS after 73 years, have we really done something tangible on ground? We just put them first amongst equals. We are still scared of giving him a higher rank than the bureaucrats. We just made him another secretary of Department of Military Affairs. That's it.
Very, very important point you raised, Iman. The basic problem is, let me put the cards on the table very clearly for everybody who's listening to us. You see, there is a fear amongst the Indian political masters that if we have a very strong army, strong air force and navy, there may be a situation that the Indian defense forces might take over the country, like what is happening in our neighbor Pakistan. That was the mindset or the kind of input they got from Pakistan, where the army established the law and order and army led the politicians, and there was mayhem in Pakistan, and till date it's happening like that. So internally, there is a fear amongst the politicians that the Indian Army, Air Force, Navy should not take over the country. Number one point. Number 2 point, to guard against this feeling, the Ministry of Home Affairs has raised paramilitary forces or central police organizations who all put together are larger than, if not equal to, the strength of the defense forces of India. I mean to say CRPF, BSF, IRB, ITBP, you name it, SSB. You put all of them together, they are equal, if not above, more than the strength of the Indian Army also. So these are the political fears we have in our masters at Delhi. I must say that they have not understood the mind of the Indian defense forces, who never wanted to get into these kind of shoes of leading the nation or overpowering the democratic system in the country. I'm very sure I spent 40 years in the army. There is never such a thought. And in fact, we always very proudly say, since I was in army, I'll quote the army, that we are always apolitical. We never muddle in politics. We don't discuss politics in our mess. We don't discuss finances in our mess. And we don't discuss many other things. You know what I'm talking about.
So very rightly you told me that we don't discuss politics. We should be apolitical. Wasn't this also a narrative probably given by the politicians to guard against the fear of army revolting against them? Why should we not understand what's happening in our country? Okay, tomorrow I retire. As long as I'm in service, I'm bound by the Official Secret Acts. There are these same regulations are applicable to civilian government officers also. So after I retire, I must understand what politics is. How is it working and where the politics is taking a country. Like that is what we're discussing today, that 75th year, when we are rejoicing, we're celebrating Amrit Mahotsav. Have we really done something or not? Or we still under the shackles of our old thoughts given to us in 1947, maybe by our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru?
Yeah, let me come to that point which you raised. You see what has happened over the last 75 years. To sum it up in few critical points, I'll just name 1, 2, 3. First point, we did not grow as a country in politics and in foreign affairs. We did not do anything majorly for our immediate neighboring regional countries. We were Bharat Mata from prehistoric times. We known as Bharat Mata. Look at that famous moti in the charan or in the feet of Bharat Mata called Sri Lanka in the Indian Ocean. We did not even leave Sri Lanka. What wrong political advice was given to Rajiv Gandhi and to go into the LTT factor in Sri Lanka? Look at, we created Bangladesh, but we never got Bangladesh on the right perspective. We didn't put it on the right track, and we failed in having the bilateral relations after creating such a country in the modern times. Nepal, Pakistan, China. Where are we friendly? Where have we been good? We have not developed our relations. We have not looked after neighboring countries which are small in size, financially, economically, infrastructure-wise. We've done nothing. No, that is immediate neighborhood I'm talking about. That is so much for our foreign affairs or bilateral affairs. We have not been able to resolve Jammu and Kashmir issue for last 75 years with Pakistan, where despite having 3 wars, and in 1971, we had achieved so much, we still did not resolve this issue of terrorism or the J&K issue with Pakistan, despite giving them 93,000 prisoners on a platter back, not even straightened our line of control, not even resolved our issues between Pakistan or in Kashmir issue. Nothing was done. We had no foresight. Unfortunately, that is the reason of these power politics or the dynastic politics. The Gandhis have failed the country. Let me very honestly put it up to you. I don't mind saying that because I am also a nationalist. I'm a country lover. I love this country. I'm a nationalist at the heart. So I don't feel bad because Mrs. Indira Gandhi or Jawaharlal Nehru were individuals like I am. They were also individuals. They were holding a position, that's fine. But they did not know how to use that position. Similarly, in Jammu and Kashmir, Sheikh Abdullah, Farooq Abdullah, Muftis, Omar Abdullah, they've again failed the state. Totally failed for their power and for their money and all those angles. They've done nothing. Now let's take a larger, one more circumference outward, looking at beyond the regional countries. India, politically or in external affairs wise, has actually failed in developing relationships with the other countries around, like you can say the Central Asian Republic countries, China, Taiwan, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Europe, America, Russia. We have not developed, I would say, very comprehensive international affairs or international relationship with any of the world countries. We were inclined toward Russia because of weapons, thanks to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi. We never went beyond that. We did not extract the political mileage or meterage that we could have done from Russia. We did not do that. Now coming
we totally ignored the US bloc.
Yes.
Totally ignored the US bloc.
We ignored because Nehru had his own this thing, mindset. And those mindsets were unfortunately lapped up and taken as gospel truth by all the political leaders who followed in the last 75 years. Congress never improved our relations of foreign affairs. The BJP has started doing that, but still there has been no meaningful step as such in this direction of international politics. We have actually not developed very serious relations apart from becoming members of few international organizations like ASEAN or Quad for the matter, which is immediately in these days very precise and very important. Beyond that, we have not done. Why don't we change our mindset? And coming to your point about army or defense people after having retired, why are their expertise, knowledge, the strategic and operational level knowledge used by the politicians in India? If that fare is set apart or set aside and people of the defense forces are given opportunity to lead and join politics in the country, and I'm sure a lot of lot of material will come into the Indian politics and take it to a newer direction, which is required today. And possibly that's what was your mind by holding this little talk. What do you have to say?
My point is, we've had an appointment of National Security Advisor, and the majority of the security is external. Of course, internal one is propped up now, but yet we have a, let's say, officer from the police services, or even a politician, or even a foreign official who becomes the national security advisor. Is that the right way the politicians should do?
ऐसा है कि दिमाग हमारे bureaucrats are actually leading the country, and they're leading the country to a great garden path. Because firstly, they are not experienced. They come and take, after retirement, they get the best of the posts outside when they retire. Secondly, look at, we had 41 ordnance factories in the country. Slowly, the factories have been closed down. And now the situation has come, and never was Indian defense ordnance factories headed by a military man or an Air Force man. Look at Navy. Navy is relevant. Navy's dockyards are relevant because since the British time, there was always a naval officer posted. You take Vizag, you take Mumbai, you take Chennai. All the naval dockyards are absolutely relevant and working under the same culture and are producing ships, frigates, submarines very, very gradually. Now we've succeeded in getting a aircraft carrier, indigenous aircraft carrier. So naval dockyards have been a very good, they've been following their old terms and conditions. Whereas Indian defense ordnance factories, 41 of them, none of them led. It was the fear of bureaucrats and the politicians that we should not put. How can you have a bureaucrat from IAS leading the factories at Khamaria or Itarsi, which is making guns, coaches, your HV heavy vehicle factory, Azadi, your BMP making manufacturing factory at Vedak, all led by IAS people. They have no idea of what is the requirement, what is the technology involved, what does it have. That is why it is not succeeding. Look at your project of DRDO also. This is another animal created DRDO, but it was given too much. They were not stopped when they failed. Again, it is politics. And in the bargain, Indian Army and Air Force have remained way behind in modernization and technological enhancement. And now we say Atmanirbhar or Make in India policy. But unfortunately, everything for the next 5 years is to every vendor in the country, small or big, has to tie up with an OEM, which is of a foreign origin, and bring his technology, which none of the countries are going to give us 100% transfer of technology. Nobody is a fool to give that technology to India. Why should they do it? They'll give you in bits and pieces, small things that you can make. We are expecting too much from Make in India. I know Make in India will be successful, but at least 20 years from now, we have made a good beginning, but not before that. We should look at Arjun tank. We have not been able to create, bring out Arjun world-class tank. It is touching almost 65 tons, which is a waste of time. World War II, they threw away such heavy tanks, and they come to light tanks or medium tanks. So unfortunately, it's all forgery. It is all, mechano. You get various parts, components of all over the country, or all over the world, and try and assemble it in Azadi. That's not the way we should do our things. So
as you rightly said, all these ordnance factories, etc., be headed by the IAS officers. What, in your opinion, do you feel that people have no idea about the cure of such an appointment? Who should be appointed there? What experience the IAS officer has? Today he is in agricultural department. Tomorrow he'll be in home. Third day he'll be in health. Someday he'll be in animal husbandry. So he's jumping from one place to the other in different fashions. So what is the expert on? And this needs a very, very niche expertise, which are very technical stuff. So why should they be eligible to be holding this post?
They are totally non-eligible. They should not be there in the first place. It should be the defense officers who are qualified, who have qualified on courses like tank technology course, advanced gunnery course, driving and maintenance course, radio course. We have so many qualified people who have the technical know-how, the experience of 30 to 40 years, and they are being wasted out. They're not being employed. I was in Abu Dhabi recently. I'd gone there for a defense expo last year, and lo and behold, who do I meet there? There was two very prominent points. Number one, there was no stall of Indian ordnance factories or Indian factory owned or a public PSU. There were one or two private players of India who were there at a very small level who were set up two shops. But what surprised me was the Pakistan Texala heavy vehicle factory had their stand over there and a massive stand, and they had put up their tank Al Khalid. They had put up their ICBs, about 4 or 5 versions of that, which were repair vehicles. They were ambulance vehicles and such armored personnel carriers. All these were on display for sale to world. They were their weapon systems, small arms, rocket launchers, and so on and so forth, which were put on display and they were selling to the world. So what it points to is they have utilized the technology borrowed from China and elsewhere and have mastered it to produce this weapon, and now they're trying to sell it to the world. Has India done that? We've not achieved it. So in defense,
are you trying to give a message to the politicians in the country that even a country like Pakistan has gone way ahead of us as far as weapon manufacturing is concerned?
I must put the point across here. When you do a combat ratio analysis between enemies, and specifically now that you named Pakistan, when we do a combat and ratio analysis, about 5 years back, Pakistan and India, the ratio was 1:1.85 or 75. And today, you'll be surprised, Pakistan and India's combat ratio is 1:1.1 in the favor of India. Pakistan has narrowed the gap of night blindness. They've got night-enabled war machines, their artillery, their production of the Wah factory in terms of guns, ammunition. They are making small arms. They are making AK-47s. They are making ammunition, world-class ammunition, small arms and artillery, equipment. We have failed. We have done nothing. We have not achieved it. Our INSAT system, 5.56, has been the biggest failure. And now the Indian infantry is looking for a small arm or an assault rifle and a carbine, which they want the best in the world. That also brings me to another issue. That is the GSQR. We Indians are fools. I'm sorry to say that. I'm talking very, very specific. When it comes to GSQR, I say fool in that matter.
GSQR is a requirement of a weapon system. Whatever the army needs or the Air Force needs, they put up their requirements. This is what the weapon should do.
They put up their requirement. They take the best 5 weapons in the world. They pull out the best qualities and specifications of those weapons and mix them to make one weapon, which is not being produced by any country in the world. It is made in the moon. Who's going to give you that weapon system? The best would have been give you a specification. Okay, this is what you want, and pick up one of the best out of the best 5 available in the world. When we come to emergencies like Op Parakram, we go running to Israel, we pick up 1 lakh ammunition of tank, we pick up so much ammunition for artillery. Same thing happened in Op Vijay. Whenever there is a crisis in India against the neighbor China, we suddenly go running, we buy Rafales off the shelf. 36 were taken by PM. And look what mayhem was created in the parliament. The opposition party leader had the audacity of going to extreme limits. So there's so much for our Indian politics. Now I come to one more important issue, and that is the foresight and planning. I'm talking at the political level or the bureaucratic level, as also our futuristic strategic plans. Are there any strategic plans in the country? Now, my answer is, within my own wisdom and within my own, arena of thinking and experience, I was in a military operation department. I have been all along my life, I've been in operations. I have led a strike corps. So I know. Before I say, I want to quote an example, which is very true. You are there, you are from Jammu and Kashmir, and you know what is happening. You know the depths of the J&K from 1947. Tell me, is there any political directive which is clear, cut and concise issued by Delhi to Northern Command to terminate or finish this counter-insurgency, which has been on for the last 35 years now? There is none. There is no political directive. Just no political directive to the army.
Next question for me was going to be the same. Do we have a national defense or national war fighting doctrine? Is there any document which tells us how to defend our borders against China or Pakistan or any other adversary? We have none. That was going to be my next question.
No, the point is that we have doctrines, we have war fighting doctrines, we have nuclear doctrine and all that. In fact, I was heading my last appointment was looking after doctrines of organizations and training. To that extent, we have formulated new doctrines, all three services, but those are not comprehensive national security documents as you are pointing towards. They are all bits and pieces, mismatched, not integrated as a document by the tri-services organization called IDS. Unfortunately, as CDS, we keep hearing of a whole lot of other, non-operational or strategic issues. We keep hearing of OROPs and pension cut and CSD and what have you, rather than hearing that some tri-services issues have been integrated at that level. So you broke my thought. I was telling you about strategic planning or strategics in the country. Our politicians, most of them are from non-military background. They do not have any great depth of knowledge of what should be our strategy in the case or in the situation of war with any of our neighbors or even beyond that. For example, the live question going on for last 1 month is: should India enter into Afghanistan? Should we put our boots on Afghanistan ground? Everybody has, their own feelings: yes, no, or neutral. So that is the reason, because we do not have strategic thought process. We should have, like Pentagon. Unfortunately, our army headquarters, our army is being suppressed. Their corners are being cut. The teeth to tail ratio is being reduced. Their pensions are being cut. Their CSD quotas are being cut. I mean, this is what we are doing at national level, rather than having a Pentagon kind of an organization which looks after complete Pakistan. We don't have a Pakistan bank, or a bench or a department. Neither do we have China. Neither do we have neighboring countries. We don't have this. When will we have this? And we are talking big. We want to become a regional power. We want to become a global power. It doesn't happen overnight. We are lacking in our equipment for defending the country. Our artillery is, if there are no new guns coming over the next 5 years, we will be at least 90% obsolete weapon. Our air defense systems are 97% obsolete today. Our weapons, small arms, are totally obsolete. Our tanks, thankfully, T-72, T-90 now being assembled, and to some extent we developed by in Azadi, are still there, are holding our combat ratios higher. We don't have night instruments in the country. We don't manufacture.
Do you think all these melodies would be addressed if we go in for a theatre command concept, which we are talking about in a big way now?
These should come under the Department of Military Affairs. Unfortunately, Department of Military Affairs not taken off. I grant them that it's just the beginning. Maybe they will mature over the next 5 to 10 years. But they should pick up the best military mind from Army, Navy, and Air Force who have retired, who has at such senior level with so much of experience, utilize their services, utilize their brain, and then develop the country. It's not politicians or bureaucrats alone. You yourself said, what experience do bureaucrats have in military affairs? They've got none, except holding back the posting, the promotion, or clearing the promotion votes. And that also, how much of schmozzle takes place under the table. So that is what I thought I should say upon what's happening.
Really enlightened us. And I think whatever conclusions we draw out of this is that 75 years of independence, we haven't been able to take our armed forces, our national security, to a level where it should have been. And whatever perspectives of whatever efforts were done, they were not done in a concerted manner, in an intelligent manner, I would say. And they should also look into that experience gained by the officers of the armed forces, the three services. They should be made to come and discuss these things and give their presentation to the government of the day and tell them what exactly is needed and how it should be accomplished. So with that, sir, thank you very much for your time, and you gave us real good perspective, and thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Devan, always a pleasure. Bye-bye.
So, we just had Lieutenant General P.S. Mehta giving us all the perspective, and it's been very brightly said. Unless you utilize the experience of the members of the armed forces, the officers of the armed forces, to get the national security right, it would never work. and till now, whatever we've been doing, we've been just trying to pass time and nothing else. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks a lot.